I have no idea whether I'm speaking with a human or with an artificial agent. I lose trust in the organization that I'm engaging with.
The more we advance in the technology and the closer we will be to the point where we will not be able to distinguish between an AI agent and a human agent.
How do we mitigate the risks against deepfakes? What should we do about it?
We need regulations, I think, and apart from regulation, also ethical guidelines for organization to deploy such systems, especially in conversational AI applications.
What is the one question that leaders and executive tables and in boardrooms should be asking but are not? Hello and welcome to another power-packed episode of Beyond the Algorithm. I am your host, Aarti Samani. I work with executives to help them incorporate AI into their business strategy for sustainable growth. I also talk about it a lot at conferences, at corporate events, and here on this show. Today, I want to explore a subject that's not new, but has been causing quite a stir in the corporate world: generative conversational AI. It has been changing how we interact with machines, blurring the lines between human and artificial intelligence. Imagine having a conversation with a virtual assistant that not only understands the language, but can also perceive context, sentiments, pick up nuances, and then respond with human-like empathy and emotional intelligence. That is the promise of conversational AI. From chatbots that can handle complex customer service inquiries to virtual companions that engage in witty banter to co-pilots that take voice prompts as inputs, conversational AI is all around us. Now I know for many of you leaders out there, conversational AI triggers a mix of excitement and anxiety. On the one hand, the potential of using AI assistants that can communicate like humans is enormously compelling. It delivers better customer experience, faster, and cheaper. What's not to like about it? But then the ethical alarms start blaring. What about voice deepfakes? What about security and the privacy risks? Look, I get it. It's powerful stuff, but we cannot apply it without a considered approach, especially in regulated sectors like finance, healthcare, or even government. It could open Pandora's box of nightmares around data breaches or disinformation campaigns. But here's the thing. The conversational AI revolution is already happening, whether we like it or not. And if you don't at least start exploring it pragmatically, you risk being lapped by competitors and upstarts. That's why I am thrilled to welcome Diego Gosmar to the show today. Diego is a renowned expert and a leading voice on the responsible development and application of conversational AI systems. Diego is someone who can talk us through the mind-bending possibilities whilst keeping sight of those ethical guardrails. He's an innovator, a chief AI officer, and an expert on generative conversational AI. Diego's focus includes natural language processing, sentiment analysis, and conversational analysis. He goes deep into the sustainable and ethical application and has authored a paper on convergence of AI and ethics in the context of conversational AI. Diego is the author of the book titled Machine Learning: The Sixth Chakra of Artificial Intelligence, written to make the complex topic of machine learning accessible to non-technical audience. Diego is also a member of Open Voice Interoperability Trust Mark Group and Tech Ethic Community. He mentors and advises several startups at the University of Turin. Diego Gosmar, welcome to the show. I am so pleased you could join us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure.
So I would love for you to start by helping our audience understand why conversational AI is gaining so much momentum. What is it that's really driving enterprises to seriously explore it now more than before?
Yeah, well, conversational AI is, let me say, a set of artificial intelligence applications involving mainly human-to-machine interactions. It's nowadays possible to interact with, for example, in the customer care space with machines. So I can deal directly for customer support with let me say, a voice bot, a chat bot. On the other side, there is often an AI agent that are capable of speaking with me, messaging with me. Maybe in a short time also with avatars, they will be able to have a video conversation with me. Well, it's not just related to customer care, even if this is my main expertise, but yeah, conversational AI is all around us. Okay, also at home. Let's think about the multiple home assistant we have, Internet of Things applications, even navigators in car while we are driving. We can interact with an AI assistant. So it's really pervasive and all around us. And yeah, it's happening. It's been happening for a few years now. And recently, yeah, generative AI, I would say, took a next step around that. Yeah. I don't know if you want to talk about how normally is deployed and implemented a conversational AI solution, or you tell me.
Yeah, absolutely. So help us understand how, if I want to start the journey of deploying conversational AI into my business, how should I go about it? What does a step-by-step process look like? And what are the considerations that I need to take into account?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think there is a unique recipe for that, but this is at least what I normally suggest to do. The first step, first step is understanding the use case. Okay, so if we have an organization, we need to start from the business use case and the purpose that we have when we want to apply and deploy some conversational AI solution. This is because I would say conversational AI can be my vision. It can have a different purpose and a different design if I want to deploy, for example, AI assistant to provide medical advice, or will be totally different if I want to provide assistant for, I don't know, play my favorite music, for example. So first of all, we need to understand the business use case that we want to deploy. The second step, this is particularly available now, it's to select an AI model. It could be a pre-trained artificial intelligence model that we want to use to deploy such a business use case for conversational AI. It's important to underline that nowadays there are multiple large language models, for example, or let me say AI models, generative AI models. And it's not just about the very, very promising and big ones. Okay, of course, we can use a pre-trained model, very powerful and very big, but it's not always the case. And maybe for specific vertical assistant in specific market, we can look at specialized and vertical AI assistant, maybe not so large, but very, very specialized in providing niche and vertical information. Furthermore, we can also look at the difference between a cloud and public available large language model, or in some cases, I don't know, we need we have restricted requirements in terms of privacy or regional regulation. So we want to deploy these AI models on premises or on a private cloud. So all these assumptions must be analyzed and deployed at the beginning. Then, of course, after that, we can start the fine-tuning, okay, of the AI model, of the conversational AI model. We can, for example, if we have this possibility, get some historical conversations, some previous conversations between human to humans, and use those kind of conversation to make a fine-tuning of the conversational AI model we selected. The fourth step, if we want to have 5 steps, can be to make a test of what we have done so far with real, maybe selected customers, and then evaluate metrics, KPI, how my conversational AI solution is performing. This is critical, and it's often not very well understood. But it's important to have some tools to evaluate how my conversational AI solution is performing. Is the AI agent providing correct answers, comprehensive answers to customers? And there are powerful tools to do that. And then, of course, it's a continuous, as a last step, I would say, it's a continuous fine-tuning and improvements, looking as a look back in the fine-tuning and in the KPI results.
Yeah, that makes sense. But if let's take a step back for a second. So you said the first step is to identify the use cases, the applications, etc. So tell us, what is the art of the possible? beyond, because most people think about conversational AI primarily in the context of customer service when we're thinking corporates and SMEs. But what are the possibilities? So, if I'm a small or medium sized enterprise, or if I'm a large enterprise in a regulated environment like financial services or healthcare, or even a public sector agency, where can I potentially deploy conversational AI in a way that legitimately drives growth, profitability, and delivers a return on investment?
Well, there are many possibilities, of course. It's not just about customer service, so to provide interactions with customer. That's one of the main application, of course. But you can deploy any kind of, I would say, interactive conversation also with your suppliers or with your internal collaborators or with the internal stakeholders. So it's really, you can really build an ecosystem around that. And also, I think you need to evaluate what kind of benefits you are looking for, because conversational AI can provide many benefits. We can say that, of course, starting from, for example, providing faster information. Conversational AI can help you in providing information a 24-hour a day for all day in the week. You can do that with humans, of course, but it's a little bit less scalable and more difficult in some cases. At the end of the day, I think the main benefit is that with conversational AI, you can also empower or enhance the human intelligence and the human capabilities. So I'm particularly interested in hybrid environments where it's important, I think, to combine the power of conversational AI with AI agent and assistant with human capabilities and with human people. So the hybrid situation is a win-win condition in my vision and in my experience in many use cases I've seen in the last few years.
Okay. And so let's delve a little deeper into that hybrid capability. What is our mental model or thinking process when we are thinking about a hybrid deployment type scenario where we are augmenting human intelligence with machine intelligence in the context of conversational deployment?
We can use AI capabilities, so AI agents, to provide a lot of information in many use cases. So I can, for example, describe use cases we've been able to deploy recently. It's an healthcare use case. So we used conversational AI inside one of the largest medical institutions here in Italy. And we've been able to use conversational AI for almost, I think, 90% of the customer interactions. Starting with messages interactions and then moving also to the voice real-time interactions. Okay. But then the win-win project was about having also the human supervisors and the human agents to work with the AI assistants. Okay. So first of all, the remaining 10% of the interactions are managed by humans. And it's really important to understand when I want to hand over from AI agency to human agency and vice versa. Okay, so often you can experience frustration when you deal only with AI chatbot or voice bot without the possibility to interact sometimes with humans. In our case, that was a game changer because we were able to integrate the two agencies, both the AI and the human together, and providing much more performance. And then there is also the matter of how to monitor and how to design and make the supervision of the entire system. And that's something that I would suggest having humans there, having the humans, human governance and human capabilities with that. So yeah, that's my experience. We have other use cases I can mention later.
Yeah, so I want to come to that handover piece, the human to AI handover and vice versa, and the failure modes and breakpoints there. While we're on this thread, let's talk about the user interface as well. So identifying the language model that is available in open source, but then also very niche models, training it, fine-tuning it based on your organization or your sector's requirement is great. What about the front end, the interface that the end user, or whether it's an employee or a customer or a supplier, when they interact with this conversational AI, what does that interface look like in the context of design? How should we go about thinking about design of that interface?
Yeah, that's an important part of the entire project, I think. It's not really just related to AI or generative AI. It's more related to user experience, and but it's very important. And so often we focus ourselves only on machine learning, on AI, and forget about the user experience, which is, in my opinion, especially in the business organization, very much important. And so to do that, it's important that I think there are both performance and also ethical implications on that. Okay, on the performance side, I want to be able to interact by using a nice interface, by using an interface. If I use a chatbot or a voice bot, very accessible, very robust, and very secure as well. Okay, and yeah, that's also relate with the ethical side or also legal aspect of that, because when I want to provide conversational AI to customers, it's critical to provide them according to 3 or 4 ethical principles. The first one is I want to bring fairness, so minimize bias, discriminations, errors, even hallucinations, and so on. Another critical point is transparency. Transparency means that first of all, the AI machine is providing some answers, and we human want to, and the supervisors and the managers needs to understand why the AI machine provided such an answer and not the other one. This is critical. So avoiding having black box. And transparency also means if we are looking, for example, at the proposal for the EU AI Act, means that we should clearly declare that on the other side, the customer is interacting with an AI machine and not a human. That's also very much ethical, and it's something that I try to deal in my recent paper as well. Because, of course, the more we advance in the technology, and the closer we will be to the point where we will not be able to distinguish between an AI agent and a human agent. And then there is, of course, the matter of privacy. For example, if we use voice, we consider that for granted, but voice is one of our most private biomarkers. By analyzing voice, we can detect things like, of course, emotions of the person, maybe something about the ethnicity of the person, something about even some diseases or something about the health of the person can be detected with that. Not to mention that we recently can use voice to perform authentications, voice by using the voice print, so biometrics authentication and security. So privacy is also another pillar we want to understand for that. So all the front end, and I would say also part of the back end, of course, of the conversational AI applications needs to address those critical points.
Let's talk about this, staying on this ethical security piece. Voice is private biometric, and there's a lot of rich information in voice, all the way from unique authentication to health markers and various other things, sentiment, context, nuances, emotions, etc. But deepfake is on the rise, and specifically voice-based deepfakes, right? So we see that a lot in news at the moment, in media everywhere, voice cloning, synthetically generated voices, etc. Now, the more we deploy conversational AI, and very specifically generative conversational AI, which is designed to respond to the human on the other side that's interacting with the system. How do we mitigate the risks against deepfakes? What should we do about it? What are the best practices?
Yeah, for sure. Deepfakes are one of the most important challenges in this picture, I would say. That's a fact. And the good thing is that there are some techniques and some guidelines, not to avoid totally that, but to mitigate this risk. For example, we could use, why not, AI for good. So we can use machine learning and AI-based decision models trained specifically to distinguish between genuine and synthetic voices. So those kind of tools, for example, can analyze various audio features and can understand and detect if there is a deepfake ongoing or not. Another technique is to analyze the spectral voice signal processing. Another technique, very interesting, it's what is called audio watermarks or digital watermarking. So by using this technology, we are going to embed a unique, we say, imperceptible sound signature inside the audio. And so those kind of watermarks of signature are very much difficult to be detected and verified by third parties, so they can help in avoid deepfake as well. Then there is, of course, the use of AI for biometric authentication. So normally it means that we have an enrollment phase where we store our voice biometric markers, and the system is capable to use that to recognize our pure voice later. But yeah, I would add that those are techniques. The most important, in my opinion, way we have to mitigate this is to create public awareness, and so perform education, make a lot of education in that, because a lot of people are not aware of that, and that's the most challenge that we have. So education and public awareness are really important to mitigate those risks.
Mm-hmm. And so again, that's interesting, because public awareness and the human is the weakest link in all of this, especially when it comes to deepfake. So technology is there to create it, technology is there to stop it or mitigate some of it, but humans are still the targets and the weakest link. So what should humans be aware of, and how, in the context of voice deepfakes, how can we recognize that this is not authentic human voice?
Well, if we are aware of that, we can, of course, take precaution. We can be proactive in that. So, for example, we can use some verification procedure to be totally sure, or almost totally sure, that there are no deepfake ongoing. So that's, for example, we can include voice verification, double authentication, callback procedure to do that. But again, in order to do that, first of all, we need to be aware of this risk, and to be aware also about some of the techniques that we can use to mitigate that. Okay, and then, so there is also the point, of course, of regulatory and legal frameworks. This is more about policies and regulations. Okay, so this is more about government and organization who are working to implementing legal measure, okay, to, on one side, to mitigate that, on the other side, also to include penalties for people who are using deepfakes. But that's, of course, another picture.
Yeah, it's true. So tackle it from a technical, human, and regulatory perspective. And given all this, and given the risks associated with it, do you still think that we should go ahead with conversational AI and the deployment of it across various sectors? And what is your confidence level in being able to secure this kind of workflow, this kind of system?
I think we can go ahead, and there are more beneficial more upside than downside than that. My opinion is that generative conversational AI is a powerful tool. It's a powerful set of technologies, and has all powerful and new technologies. We need to understand how to use that and how to adopt that ethically and according to security principle, taking precautions for that. But the benefits are really, really high. So it's just like the internet revolution. Of course, you can use internet for good, or you can you can use that also for bad things. But of course, it's not a matter of the technology. The matter is more on how we use this kind of technology. And it's the same for conversational AI.
Got it. Right. Now, I was reading, I think through one of your social media posts, a patent that has been recently filed by an organization, and I will read what it says. It basically says the system analyzes the multimodal interactions, determines the need for a human in the loop, and seamlessly replaces the virtual human during the conversation without the user noticing the substitution. Now, when I read this, I can see the potential benefits, but I can see a lot of downsides and darkness. So, from a user standpoint, if I have no idea whether I'm speaking with a human or with an artificial agent, I lose trust in the organization that I'm engaging with. I feel they are not transparent. I feel they are not authentic. Where do we draw the line in this? I can see the merits of a seamless handover from human to machine and vice versa. But where does trust and authenticity play a part in this? And how do organizations ensure that they maintain a level of trust with their users and that the users understand that this organization is not inauthentic?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. It's something that, up to some extent, I try to analyze by designing a framework, a model in my recent paper. I call that conversational hyperconvergence, so a breaking point where we will reach a threshold where we will not be able to distinguish anymore if we are interacting with an AI agent or a human, and that's something that it's happening. Well, so there are two important aspects to consider. The first is again to be awareness of this, because maybe I'm pretty sure that most part of the people are not aware of this, but we are living already now in a blurring world where online, offline are mixed, where digital, analog are mixed, and even we will be living probably in a world where AI agents and human agents will be mixed. And for example, in my research, I try to model that, and I figure out that in some cases, for example, with some conversation complexity and with some channels, for example, email or the more asynchronous channels, chat messaging, already nowadays, it's not easy to understand immediately that I'm messaging with a human or an AI agent. Maybe with voice and video, I'm still quite quick to do that, the recognition. But even that, I think we will reach this breaking point because of the technology advancement, of course. So the transparency will be, so first of all, we need to be aware of this, okay? And second, of course, we need some regulation for that. So the EU AI Act, everybody is looking at that, says that the risk model and the risk levels, there are 4 risk levels, starting already from the low risk levels. The Act requires that the organization is transparent, and so, for example, it clearly declares that there is an AI machine and agent which is interacting with me. But apart from regulation, of course, it's a matter more of ethical principles. So there are also, I would say, not just legal advice, but also ethical one, because I mean, there are many kind of different approach with people, and it's very easy if we don't design the system correctly to create a lot of bias, for example. And also, I found it out in my research that people who are more technical prepared and technical skilled, let me say digital natives, they are faster to recognize if they are interacting with an AI agent or a human one, while maybe normally older people, or let me say not very technical people, for them it's more difficult. And then there is also the multicultural aspect, okay? So multiple languages, dialects, and multiple and diverse cultures. And the consequences of that is that it's not unique, the perception of AI and human on the other side. So we need regulations, I think, and apart from regulation, also ethical guidelines for organization to deploy such systems, especially in conversational AI applications.
Yeah. So the responsibility lies with the individual interacting in order for them to perceive whether this is artificial or human. But do you think there should be transparency from the organization as well to say you are now engaging with an automated agent, or now I am human Aarti who is serving you in this interaction. I just wonder, how do we create that trust from an organizational perspective? It is so important for brands to build an authentic brand, one that screams trust, right? Especially when we think about disinformation, when we think about deepfake and all the wrong things that are penetrating the cyber social terrain at the moment. And brands stand to be impacted, or their reputation stand to be impacted by the proliferation of these synthetically generated, synthetically created activity across media, but also in other forms. So for our audience who are thinking about their brand reputation, their trust with the users, their customers, what should they be implementing in their conversational AI systems to really demonstrate that, look, we are completely transparent, we are telling you when the handover is, we are telling you when we are automating? Do you have any best practices or guidelines on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not difficult, but it's very important. Organizations need to clearly say, to clearly tell to the customer, or the users, when they are using AI solution behind. And also, apart from telling, they also need to get approval of that. So it's not just about saying, okay, there is an AI interacting with you. It's also about saying, okay, are you okay with that? Because, I mean, in some cases, let's think about vulnerable people in very emotional states. Maybe they don't want to do that. Or maybe it's even dangerous to do that. So there is the need, and it's an ethical need, because I'm pretty sure that if we're looking at the entire world, maybe in EUE, we will have this act, but then such kind of regulations will come later in other countries. I don't know. So I'm not sure that the legal regulation will be all around the world the same. I'm pretty sure that would not be the case. But yeah, so it's a responsibility of the organization to do that, apart from the legal regulation. So to clearly state and to define, I would say, an AI culture inside the company, in the organization. So it's critical, for example, to have head of AI point of reference in the organization, having AI expertise, which are not just technical, but complete, let me say, AI officer with a complete vision, both technical, business, and ethical perspective, to implement those kind of guidelines. So in this case, for example, to clearly state when I am using AI, and also get the approval to use that from the user.
Yeah, that's an interesting segue into what can we expect to see change in the constitution of an executive team or an organizational design. So you alluded to having an individual whose sole job is to drive AI initiatives, not necessarily from technical perspective, but from responsible, ethical perspective and all the other pieces that go with it. So is that the role of a chief AI officer? Is that a vacant seat around the executive table that is waiting to be filled? And if so, what does that individual look like? What is their background? What is their profile? What kind of role have they played in the past? Given that this role, Chief AI Officer, is only about 4 weeks old, we don't have an established history of what a Chief AI Officer looks like. So help us understand that, where your thinking is.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting that I've read on some newspaper that the Biden administration in the United States issued an order for every federal institution in the states to hire a kind of chief AI officer. Yeah, this is a new role which is coming up. There are some myths about that. There are a lot of rumors. Yeah, and I'm one AI officer as well. So the first thing is to be aware of what are the missions and the skills required to do that. And I see 5, 6 different skills and competence. The first one is the technology vision, which means nowadays to be constantly up to date with a lot of information about AI coming up, a lot of new technologies, but also be able to filtering and to find the proper information which are connected to the second skill of the AI officer, which is the business one. Okay, so the AI officer, of course, inside the organization needs to use AI, design AI to generate proper return of investments. So there is technical business vision. There is also the culture and I would say contamination, evangelism, or let me say AI training. So one of the things that I'm doing now in the organization is also to provide internal training to people to get more aware of the AI implications, both technical and ethical, and so knowledge transfer. I would say both internally and also externally, so with events, evangelism. Then there is also the skill required, so to attract the talent and people. So working with EHR to do that, it's not easy because, of course, such kind of skills are not easy to be found. And then there are two other aspects, which are AI regulations. So be informed and, of course, grant that the organization is following the proper AI regulations, which are in this moment different according to the region and the countries where the organization is operating, and the AI ethics as well, which is beyond the regulation. It's more about using AI according to sustainable and trustworthy guidelines. So it impacts the brand reputation, this final part, as you properly said before.
Yeah, that's very helpful. So let's take a step back and explore the cultural aspects of conversational AI specifically then. So language is a big part of our identity, and AI doesn't see boundaries, it doesn't see borders. You also alluded earlier that the culture plays a big part in the perception of interaction with AI versus humans, etc. So most of the content on internet is in English or some key large languages. How does conversational AI take care of languages? How do we make sure that it's not ebbing away and disappearing, that the rise of AI and the focus on using the available data on the internet doesn't actually ebb away the identity of individuals, especially if they are using languages which are not mainstream on the internet? How does conversational AI take into account that?
Well, in this point, I'm quite positive because I think that technology can actually help with that. Meaning that there are nowadays, if you go, for example, if you jump on Hugging Face or other repositories of AI models, you will find thousands and thousands of different AI models, pre-trained AI models. For example, I found out a model specialized in Vietnamese dialects. But the good thing is that I can take those models and I can fine tune those models, okay, without having to do the training again, the complex pre-training. So with the proper techniques, actually nowadays it's possible to, I would say differently from a few years ago, to use natural language processing also to support very niche languages. That's a good thing. And consequently also niche cultures. Mm-hmm. So again, it's a matter of, there are the techniques to do that. It's a matter of how we use those techniques.
Mm-hmm. And are vendors taking care of that? Or are we still seeing primarily focused on English, European languages, and maybe a couple of key major languages around the world? Is it being driven by revenue because these are the most popular languages? You don't have to create synthetic data, therefore it's cheaper to train the models, etc. Or is there work being done around other languages to really democratize generative conversational AI so that we are not marginalizing segments or groups of people and making it unavailable for them?
Well, I don't think all the vendors are working on that because, as you said, business is driving, in many cases, the development. So probably many big vendors are focusing on mainstream languages and cultures. But again, the good thing is that it's now possible, in my opinion, to demystify and democratize the AI models. So there are hundreds of thousands of AI pre-trained models available, and there are even pre-trained models open source. So differently from few years ago, it's now possible for the quite a small company based in a remote location to take this model, to make a tuning of the models, and so to deploy a natural language model, okay, which will be able to support that kind of niche language. So on one side, we have probably big organization and big vendors who are mainly focusing the main flow. But on the other hand, we have the possibility to address also the niche cultures and niche languages.
Yeah. Let's talk about agentic workflows. That's a term that I hear a lot, and I can see the conversation we had earlier in the show around interoperability between human and artificial agents in the context of voice or conversational input powered system. Where do you see agentic workflows fitting into this, and do you have any frameworks that we should know about that will help us as business leaders deploy agentic workflows for better outcomes?
Well, yeah, that's something I've been working on with a group of the nonprofit Open Voice Interoperable Linux Foundation AI and Data. And so here there are some assumptions we need to understand, first of all. Well, the first is that we are moving now from a very big large language model, which are, of course, more and more powerful every day, to use also vertical AI assistants, so very specialized AI agents. And what is going on is that we have thousands, probably millions of chatbots developed around the world. So a lot of AI assistants. They are used by many organizations, private, public. They are specialized, okay? Many of them are specialized on vertical support, vertical information they can provide. On the other side, also, we have that the public information, which has been used to make the training of the big large language model. So we know that they have been able to do the training from Wikipedia, from all the public web, basically. But what we don't know often is that the public web is only a smaller part of the entire information in the world, because a lot of other information are not publicly available. Okay. So, for example, if I want to create an AI assistant able to interact with my my patient, because I am a medical institution, and I want to access the medical records of the patients with proper privacy and security and so on. Okay, but of course, this is a private information. Okay, so what we've been working in this team is to create a standard for having those kind of AI assistants to be able to interact each others by using these standard messages. Okay, so it's a universal API. We call that a universal envelope. And we have some use cases that I can also mention. One of the most interesting use cases is a government. It's the agency, the digital agency of the Estonian government. And they've been able to test those specifications. So basically what they do is they provide a front-end agent, a chatbot front-end to the Estonian citizen, which is going to provide basic information. Okay, but then maybe the citizen would like to have information about, I don't know, how to renew the passport, or he lost the passport, or maybe he needs to access some medical history. And the front-end agent is not entitled to provide this information. So these agents need to escalate, and so to talk with another agent, okay, which is specialized in providing such information. And this conversation between the two agents is standard in this case. And that means more scalability, less user frustrations at the end.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk about the chakras of AI. So your book is titled Machine Learning is the Sixth Chakra of Artificial Intelligence. So talk to us, what are the chakras of AI? What are the other 5 chakras? And why is machine learning the 5th chakra of AI?
Well, first of all, the 6th. Yeah. Well, let's start with the reason I called the book Machine Learning the 6th chakra of AI. So the 6th chakra is related to the third eye in some cultures. And this chakra is important for intuition and to make prediction. And of course, I thought, okay, machine learning is that, because at the time, machine learning, I was writing the book. Actually, yeah, I was using machine learning mainly to make predictions. But even today, we use machine learning for that. Also in the large language model, what we basically do is we use very powerful machine learning techniques, for example, to predict the next word in a text generation. I don't know if I'm able to relate all the chakra to AI. Probably I would consider, well, the fifth chakra is the chakra at the 12th level, and it's the chakra of the communication. And of course, generative AI is big in communication, so why not? We can relate the fifth chakra. And also, I would like to consider the fourth chakra, which is the chakra of heart, and that's more about compassion, empathy, and I think it's important we can relate that chakra to AI for all the ethical aspect we were mentioning before.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I love the analogy of heart chakra with ethical implications, the throat chakra with voice applications or communication or conversational application of generative AI, and then of course the forehead or the sixth chakra in the intuition and the forecasting and prediction, which is actually what generative AI is all about. My finale question then, Diego, as we move beyond the algorithm, what is the one question that leaders and executive tables and in boardrooms should be asking but are not?
Well, I would shift the attention a little bit for a moment from algorithms, because of course algorithms are important also from the ethical point of view, okay, to govern the algorithms and so on. I would shift the attention from the algorithm to the data, because the question I would have is, again, if I think about the big large language model, they've been trained on probably almost all the available public data. So what's next? What's going on? Because we heard about the coming up GPT-5 and so on and so forth, but what can we do to improve that? Because there are no more public available data. So probably are we going, my question, to look at private data, and how are we going to do that? And I have a second question or a consideration I would suggest, that is, of course, in the last 12, 18 months, we've seen a kind of hype around AI. So there is also some kind of exaggerating information about that. And so we probably have been in what it's called the summer of AI. We are probably now headed in the fall season of AI. So what is going on, and when will there be the winter of AI again? Because it's quite cycle. And what are we going to do with that? So moving from the hype to the realistic future, where are we going there?
Does the winter of AI worry you?
No, I'm not worried about that. But I think it's important that we are aware of that. And we consider that according to some balance as well.
That's intrigued me. What would a winter of AI look like?
Well, I think it would like much less of hype. More, we will. So it could be like when we used, or imagine we used all the data we have available to make the training of AI models. So what next? Yeah, we can use synthetic data. Somebody is telling us there are synthetic data. We can use that. Okay. But then what's next? Well, I'm always, after winter, I will wait for the spring again. Maybe quantum AI will be a next level, a next step, or something else that I have no precise answers now. But again, I think we need to be aware of that.
Yeah, I can feel a whole session on philosophy of AI coming with you, Diego. Anything else you would like our audience to know? Anything you would like to communicate to our audience?
I was thinking to my book about machine learning, which I'm keeping on updated, keeping on updated that, because new things coming up every week. So I come up with at least one new edition every year. So maybe we can think about a seventh chakra of AI in the next edition. I would think about something. The seventh chakra is, if I'm correct, is the connection with the spiritual from the head, with the spiritual and the higher selves and others. So, and my interest in ethical and combination, philosophical digital combination with AI could bring me to write something about that.
That'll be very interesting, and we look forward to it. Diego Gosmar, thank you so much for joining us today. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I'm sure our audience has too. Thank you again for joining us today. Really appreciate your time and your expert knowledge.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you very much.